Hello? Somebody on with me?
Hey, Frank.
Hey man, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Just waiting for everybody to get jumped on here.
All right.
How you doing today, man?
Good. A little tired, but mostly good.
I hear that. We're gonna get going in like 3 minutes here.
All
I'm
right.
just getting everybody the link again.
How many people are joining?
There's gonna be about 10 people in the group, but probably about half of them aren't going to be making the live calls every single week. So it'll
Okay.
range somewhere between 3 and 10. But I'm going to record all these things too.
Cool.
All right. I don't even know if that's the link that's going to work for people. Let me see here.
The
Nope,
one
that
you
is,
sent, let me hop right on, if that helps.
it did. Okay. Perfect. All right. I'm just going to drop that to some suckers.
Okay. I'll be right back, Frank. I'm going to grab some food. Haven't eaten
All right.
yet.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. What's up, Jason?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Cool. I'm excited. We've got probably about the majority of the group actually couldn't make it tonight, but I didn't want to delay the start date anymore, so we're going to be recording these things. So there'll probably just be a few of us on tonight, but they'll be recorded. Plus, you're here, so it doesn't matter.
Awesome. Thanks.
What's happening for you, man? You sold any more one-off projects?
No, I've gotten bogged down with one of them because I hired someone, but they did a terrible job, so I had to do it myself.
Shit, man. How long did that take you? How many hours?
Oh boy, I'm still working on it. So probably more than 50, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole lot.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Shoot, man.
But yeah, learn from your mistakes and move on. That's what
Exactly.
So,
What did you get paid for that one?
that's the 20K.
Nice, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, why don't we get rolling, you guys? And again, we're recording this, so a lot of the people that are going to be joining us, you know how it goes. A lot of people are just going to show up some weeks, and then we're going to record them. So what I would love for you guys to do is mute your microphones just for right now. And what we'll do is my aim is to keep these meetings really tight in terms of the hour commitment that we made, especially since it's in the evening for people. And we've actually got a guy in Europe, so it's like 2 a.m. for him right now. So some weeks he's going to be able to join us for the full amount of time. So I'm going to keep them tight, and my aim is that I give you guys all of the information within the first 45 to 50 minutes. That way the last 10 minutes of the call can be dedicated to you guys getting your questions answered directly by me. Right, so I also want to let you guys know you guys have unlimited access to me through Facebook chat or through email throughout this process, right? Because I want you guys to implement this information, and I want to be there to help you implement this information. So there's that. The other thing that I'll mention is at the end of every call, I'm going to send you guys a quick form to fill out. And actually, I'll drop the link in now just so I don't forget it. Okay, so I'm going to drop the link in now just so I don't forget it. And don't worry about looking at this until the end. It's just like 4 simple things. And this is actually something that I learned from studying with Tony Robbins, which is immediately after you learn new information, for you to integrate that information, there's a few key steps that you need to go through right after you've consumed the information, so that way you can actually start to learn and integrate some of that stuff instead of just going right out. Okay, so I'll just remind you guys at the end, but there's a form. Really, it's like a 5-minute thing that I want you guys to fill out so that you can integrate what we learn. Cool. All right, so let me start sharing my screen with you guys. Okay, so it'll probably just look crazy for a second. And now I just want to minimize this. Okay. So if one of you guys can unmute for a second and just confirm with me that you can see the slideshow, that you can hear me, and that the screen doesn't look crazy or anything. Can one of you guys confirm that that's all good?
It's all good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, here we go, guys. So what I want to focus on first is what is our mission for the next 5 weeks? And you guys are going to see this from me a lot. A lot of the things that I do in terms of the way that I present this information to you, the way that we learn, and ultimately the actual sales methodology that we're going to implement, a lot of it is based on mission and purpose and vision. Right, so our mission for the next 5 weeks is to empower you to become total masters of what it means to go out there and close sales ethically. Okay, so notice, I want you guys to become closers, and I want it to be in an ethical way. So I want you guys to be empowered. I want you guys to be educated about what sales actually means. And ultimately, my mission during this time is to distill the thousands of hours of practice that I've got across sales, right? So I've got my 10,000 hours of mastery in I've studied with guys like Jim Camp, the spin selling methodology, Jordan Belfleur's straight line system, the Sandler methodology, right? So not only have I actually been out there selling for the last 8 years and creating and managing sales teams, but I've gone through all of the education, read all of the books, and what I aim to do for you guys is to distill that information into things that you can take, learn, and immediately go out and implement. This is not going to be another one of those courses where somebody is telling you really smart things, but then you're confused about how to implement it. The reason that I actually developed this sales methodology was specifically because of that. Because I was out there reading the books like Spin Selling, like The Challenger Sale, like things on negotiation from Jim Camp, things on NLP, right? I studied everything. And the challenge that I found was that when I was reading these things or when I was learning these methodologies, it sounded really smart and it sounded really good, but I didn't actually know what the hell to do with the information. There wasn't a clear path for me between taking that information and putting it into practice in my day-to-day sales. So that's what we're going to do for you guys, and I want you guys to hold me accountable to that. If it's ever unclear about how to do something, I want you guys to bring that to me and ask, because my aim here isn't to say things that just sound cool or say things that you think, yeah, that's totally true. My aim is for me to say these things and to teach you these things, and then for you guys to get results with them. Okay, so today's focus, buckle your seatbelts, today's focus is the groundwork. So for this first week, what we absolutely must do is lay the groundwork that's going to be the foundation for the actual steps that we put into place in the next 4 weeks after that, right? So what we're going to be talking about today is a few things. We're going to be talking about how do people actually make decisions, okay? We're going to be talking about why it exists out there and why people have negative subconscious beliefs around what it means to spend their money. Okay, so not only are we selling a product or service, but we're actually overcoming subconscious limiting beliefs that people have around what it means to buy, what it means to make decisions, and what it means to actually give someone else their money. Okay, so we're going to be going layers deep here so we can understand the foundation of persuasion. And the foundation of persuasion is your ability to affect someone else's decision-making process. So before we actually lay out all of the steps to affecting a decision-making process, we've got to understand at a root level what's going on in people's brains when they're trying to make a decision. Okay, so we're going to understand the one thing that you must create in your prospects' minds that is a prerequisite for them to be able to take action. And what we're going to focus on at the tail end of today is how do you create your own mental framework for effective selling. Everything begins with your intention. Everything begins with your purpose, right? So before we can sell anyone else on anything, what we ultimately have to do is condition or sell ourselves on what it means to go out there and do the work that we're going to do. Okay, so you guys already know my story. I just want to give you a quick catch up. And to those of you guys listening to the recording, I studied history in college. I didn't study business. I had no business background. My parents were not business owners. I studied history, and I was a bit of an introvert. And what I mean by that was I was always kind of outgoing at parties, but I'm an introvert in the capacity of I need a lot of time by myself to decompress after interacting with other people, right? So being around other people takes my energy, so I need to spend alone time building my energy back up, right? So selling for me is not a natural state of mind, right? So here I am. I studied history in college, which has nothing to do with business. I have an introverted personality, so I've got to spend time alone to rebuild my energy stores. And the first job that I got out of college was for a really terrible startup. And I say terrible because it was directionless, because the CEO was pretty much just hiring anyone that he could with a pulse. So it was not a great situation. So what I did is I went into that really terrible software startup company. There was about 7 people. They had an awful product, and I thought that the product could be pivoted, meaning the software itself was not serving its purpose, but I thought there could actually be another purpose for it, but in a totally different department, and it was into the government. So my CEO told me, look, I'm not spending any money to develop this unless we are absolutely certain that somebody's going to buy it if we spend all this time developing it and changing it. So go out there, get some money, and if somebody pays us, then we'll go and build it, right? So I actually did that twice. I went out, signed a client for $30,000. Then I went out and signed another city client for $30,000. And then we scaled that to the next 150 paying subscribers of anywhere from $225 to $2,000 a month. And that is in the government in 2008, right, when the economy was crashing. So that really gave me my first of what it was like to be a sales machine. And that just caused me to go down the rabbit hole. A guy named Jim Camp, if you guys haven't heard of him, he's written several books on negotiation, most notably Start With No. He actually trained the FBI hostage negotiation teams. So he's a big deal in the negotiation specific world. I went to Jim and I got a year-long mentorship with Jim. Then I actually went to work with Jim so that I was coaching some of his overflow persuasion and negotiation clients. So I started getting deep down the rabbit hole of what it meant to negotiate and persuade. I was trained in spin methodology. I trained in the straight line selling methodology, which is Jordan Belfort stuff, Sandler training, Sandler consulting, right? I studied all of these things, and what I found was that in the day-to-day life, right, where now I was working for a larger startup software company where I was selling solutions upwards of $200,000 one-time fees, $60,000 to $100,000 in annual fees. And what I found was that all of these things made sense to me, but it was never clear how I would actually take them and put them into action, right? So after this week, after we've laid the foundation, my promise to you is that we're going to be giving you actionable things. Again, this is not just more fluff. This is stuff that I want you guys to go out there and use and then give me feedback as you're using it so that we can make sure you're using it to the best of your ability. Okay, after 5 weeks, what can you guys expect? Clear process to follow for any sales interaction, no matter what it is. Okay, so what I want to give you guys is a process, and it's about that whole teach a man to fish thing. I'm not just going to give you guys something that's going to use for a certain type of sales. What I'm going to lay out for you is a methodology that you can use whether you're selling a one-time consulting or coaching package for $5,000, whether you're selling hundreds of thousands of dollars of one-off software development, or whether you're selling a software solution for $100 a month, right? The methodology that I'm going to teach you is based on human decision-making processes and based on human psychology. So it applies to any time you are looking to influence someone else, right? So after 5 weeks, you're going to have a clear process. You're going to have it so clear that you're going to be able to go explain this system to other people because we're going to break it down into that simple state. All right, next up, you're going to deeply understand the psychology of decision-making and how to influence it. You're going to get and understand people's relationship with their money and your own and what that means during the buying process. And you're going to know how to prepare yourself in all ways prior to any interaction to bring the best possible version of yourself to those calls, right? So you're not just preparing your prospects, which we're going to talk about, but you're also preparing yourself. And you're not just preparing yourself with facts and figures on the person that you're selling into's business or their psychology. You're preparing yourself mentally. You're framing yourself mentally for the best possible scenario. Okay, so how can you guys best take advantage of this stuff that we're going to teach? Number one is commitment and implementation. This information is nothing if you guys don't go out there and take advantage of it by implementing it, right? You must do that in order to get better, right? So again, my commitment to you guys is throughout the 5 weeks, I'm going to be checking in with you guys regularly to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing and that you're actually implementing this in whatever sort of sales you're doing right now. All right, so that's how you're going to take advantage of it, is commit and implement to it. Second is act in the face of uncertainty, right? So there are going to be some concepts that are going to be different or they're going to be uncomfortable to you to start. The point of all of this is not to remove fear or remove uncertainty. The point of all this is that we act in the fate of uncertainty. There's always going to be uncertainty or fear to a degree in entrepreneurship and sales. So what we're becoming are people who act in the face of it anyway. Okay, point 3, this is important. Take notes on paper, right? So this isn't everyone's natural state, especially when they're on a call like this. The reason that I recommend taking notes on paper is because when you're actually putting pen to paper, neurological connections are forming in your brain. So you are actually learning the information better when you're taking notes on it, okay? Second, immediately fill out the form after the call. Again, these things are not for my benefit. They are entirely for your benefit to integrate. Next up, give me feedback, right? I've got a proven system, but if you guys have special sales situations that you're going into and you want feedback on that, send me a Facebook message, send me an email, talk to me during the Q&A portion of these calls, and I will make sure I'm handling what you're up to. Okay? And then last, just ask me questions. Okay, so now we're really going to get rolling. That was really all the information that I needed to just get out there so you understand what we're doing and what we're going to be up to. Structure is freedom. Okay? I want you guys to think about that for a second. Structure is freedom. When I was looking from the outside in, wanting to become an entrepreneur, what I envisioned entrepreneurship and being out there or being a sales machine, right? And ultimately, if you're a sales machine, if you can go out there and sell things, you are going to write your ticket in life. You're going to be able to do anything that you want. You're going to be able to generate money on demand, right? So when I was looking from the outside in, what I always thought of entrepreneurship as, or going out there and being this high-performance salesperson, I thought that entrepreneurs had all of this freedom in the absence of structure, right? I thought they just could do whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. But ultimately what I've discovered over the past 2 years is that you must operate within a system in order to measure, tweak, change, and improve what you're doing. Okay, so right now, when you're going on to a sales call, or when you're doing some sort of an interaction that involves persuasion or your ability to get agreement with someone, you might not be going into it with a plan, right? You might be telling yourself things like, I'll just figure it out in the moment, I'll see what happens, and I'll base what I say based on what they say. And then some of you guys on the recording or on the call, you might be relying on showing people things, right? You want to show people things, show them software, demo them something in order to utilize that, right? Ultimately, that's a crutch. So what we're going to do here is we're going to throw the crutches away, because you don't need crutches when you have a repeatable structure to follow, right? So what we're teaching here is a skill. And the only way to get better at a skill is to follow the same practice over and over again so that you can measure what works, see what doesn't, and then tweak the things that need to be changed. So the reason that you guys are going to hear me talk so much about structure is that there's absolutely no way that you can get better at anything unless you're working through the same process over and over again. Okay? When we're operating from a system, it eliminates doubt and guessing. So you guys might have had this situation. I used to have it. I would be sitting there 10 minutes before a sales call, and I would just be getting feelings, knots in my stomach that I didn't want to do this stuff, right? The reason that I was feeling those knots wasn't that I was nervous to talk to somebody new, because I had done it thousands of times by that point. The reason that I was nervous is because I just didn't know what I was going to say. I was going to start talking to them. I was going to start asking questions as I thought of them, right? So I didn't come in with knowing what to say, knowing what to do, knowing how to frame the conversation for myself or my prospect. And what that was creating was an energy leakage. Rather than focusing intently on asking smart questions and leading my prospect down a path of self-discovery, rather than focusing intently on that, my energy was all over the place because I just didn't know what I was going to do. I was going to wing it, right? So the reason that we're going to operate in a structure is because it's going to allow you to laser focus in on the conversations that you're having. Okay. And again, I just wanted to step back and say, remember, this week is a lot of framework that you guys need to understand to build on, right? So I'm going to be coming at you a bit like a fire hose with concepts. This is the foundation of what it means to effectively sell, right? So I just wanted to take a step back, let you guys know that on the recording and those of you that are live on the call. How do you never sell again? Okay. So ultimately, sales is not convincing anyone of anything. In fact, the way that human decision making works, you cannot actually convince anyone of anything. So that now begs the question, what does selling actually mean? What we are doing as we are becoming masters of this process is we're not becoming masters of convincing people of things, because no one can be convinced of anything. We're leading people through a process of self-discovery. And that self-discovery is specific to the product or service that you're selling. So if you're selling a software product, you're leading people through a process of self-discovery around the challenges that they've got in their business, around the roadblocks that they've got to getting what they want, and ultimately, you're helping them make a decision. Okay, so we're not persuasion masters. We are becoming experts at facilitating the decision-making process, because I can't convince you of anything. All I can help you to do is to see something for yourself. And the way that I help you to see something for yourself is by becoming a closing coach. Okay, I am going to teach you guys to coach people through the process of making a decision that is going to positively impact their life. Because we can't convince people, we can't pitch them hard, we can't sell them things. What we have to do is to help them see these things for themselves. Okay, what is actually happening in people's minds? Okay, a few things are happening. I'm going to go into each of these in a little bit more detail. So what's actually happening in people's minds is they have subconscious beliefs around what it means to buy things and what it means to be sold to, right? So this is that thing that I was talking about before, where if you're going into something focused exclusively on what your product or service is, you're missing an entire layer of what it means to sell something. Because before someone is even thinking about their product or service, or your product or service, they have limiting beliefs floating around in their head around what it means to spend money and around what it means to interact with someone they believe is going to be selling them something. Okay, so that's thing one that we're going to dive into a little bit more detail. Second up, their inability to make effective decisions in their life, right? So not only do people not understand how they make decisions around buying or how they interact with people who they perceive to be selling, but they have an inability to effectively make decisions in your life. And it's very easy to see, right? If you've ever heard the phrase, I need to think about it, or I need to do a little bit more research, these are things that in the course of doing what we do, they come up regularly, okay? You just can't avoid that happening. However, ultimately what those things mean, they don't mean that you haven't sold that person on your product or service. What it means is that they have a broken decision-making process, and you haven't helped them go through a better decision-making process. Most people in their lives don't have a clear filter for what it means or what it takes for them to make a decision. Okay, so again, subconscious beliefs around buying, subconscious beliefs about interacting with salespeople. They have an inability to effectively make decisions in their lives. And then ultimately, how do their goals fit into the product or service you offer? So notice that's the third thing. Okay, the third thing is about the actual product or service. The first two things are about things that are going on in their brains under that surface layer that most people are never even considering. Most people, when they're going into an interaction where they're trying to sell something that they're offering, they're only thinking about thing three, their product or service, and they're not even thinking about these other belief systems that people are running. So they're basically missing 2/3 of what it means to effectively walk somebody through a sales process. Not good. Not going to get great results by missing 2/3 of the whole pie. Okay, so what does it actually mean to spend money? So this is a little exercise for us. Most people in the world are subconsciously programmed to believe that spending money is bad. Okay? And you can even see that with stuff with phrases like, what's the damage? Or when somebody tells you a price for something and the response is, ouch. Okay? What is that actually saying? The language and the societal attitude towards spending money in general is what's the damage or ouch, which means that spending money to people is painful. Okay? So if spending money is physically painful to people, then the reverse of that is true. Meaning the reason that most people in the world view people wealthy, right? They view wealthy people, or sometimes they view salespeople as greedy or as somehow evil, is because of this logic. Meaning if spending money is bad and spending money is painful, then people like salespeople or people who are wealthy, who have accumulated a lot of money, they must be evil because look at all of the damage they've inflicted on people by collecting all of their money. Okay, so point number one regarding beliefs around money, you are not inflicting pain by causing people to spend your money or their money. You are not inflicting pain by collecting money from someone. You're empowering the expansion of your customer's business or your customer's life. And it's easy to see this. Think back at the times in your life when you've spent money on something, right? When you've spent money on a course or you've spent money on a vacation. Was that bad? Or did spending money on a course or spending money on a vacation expand the possibilities of your life? With a course, did it expand your opportunity to grow your business? With a vacation, did it expand the possibilities of feeling joy and connection with your family? Right? So first and foremost, I want you guys to feel totally comfortable asking for money, because by asking for money, we're not inflicting damage on people. What we're actually doing them is giving them the opportunity to expand the possibilities of their business or life. Okay, so what is actually the decision-making process that most people go through? First, all decisions are made 100% emotionally, right? So when I make a decision on something, if I want to join a course, if I want to hire a new staff member for my business, I'm first making that decision at a gut level, meaning I emotionally want to do that thing. I am drawn to do that thing because it's going to help me remove a problem or pain in my life. And logic only comes in after the emotional decision is made, right? So once we get into weeks 2, 3, 4, 5, what we're going to be talking about is how to actually create this emotional decision and then follow it on with logic. So we're going to be talking about that, but I wanted to give you guys the frame of what we're going to be talking about. Okay, there are also subconscious patterns that people are operating on, like be afraid of strangers. You guys have probably heard the phrase stranger danger. Okay, again, it is these belief systems that we've accumulated. So one of the reasons that people are nervous or they don't love interacting with salespeople is because they've subconsciously been programmed not just to believe that salespeople are somehow bad, but they've subconsciously been programmed to believe that it is weird for people to ask them for money or for them to interact with a stranger. Okay, so ultimately, step number 4 here, what we're going to be talking about, again, a little bit later, is we're talking about lowering their action threshold, right? So we're talking about this now in the concept of how do people make decisions. Everyone's got an action threshold, right? And an action threshold means that there is some certain criteria where they need to know you, like you, and trust that your product or service is going to deliver a result before they can take an action on anything, right? So one of the ways that people make decisions is they unknowingly have this action threshold, and our job is to get them beyond the action threshold. And the way that we're going to get them beyond the action threshold is by coaching them through a decision-making process, by coaching them through a process of self-discovery and help them see what do they actually want out of their life or business, right? How committed are they to getting it? And what are the roadblocks in their way? So we're going to expose these belief systems that they've got right? And we're going to feed it right back to them, which is going to allow us to lower their action threshold so that they can make an effective decision on whether or not our product or service is right for them. And I want to make sure I say this to you guys. It's not about getting everyone to say yes. It's about getting the people to say yes that you truly can help and truly can afford your product or service. So we're not being manipulative. We're not employing any sort of sleazy tactics. What we're doing here is we're looking for the right people for our product or service. And once we know we've got the right people, our job is to coach them through their limiting decision-making process, their limiting beliefs around what it means to spend money, and their limiting beliefs around what it means to act in the face of uncertainty. Okay? Last thing about the way that people make decisions, customers always place more value on what they request or conclude than what they are told. So this goes back to the point that I was making a little bit earlier, where the reason that we're not pitching people hard is because that is not how persuasion takes place. You can't convince someone, or you can't convince anyone of anything, right? So what we're doing, coaching them through a process of self-discovery, and they are going to place much more value on something if they ask you for it, or if they draw the conclusion as a result of your line of questioning. Okay, that's why you can sell Rolexes in a world of smartphones. Okay, so decision making again. Most people are fear-driven. Okay, so most people are operating with one core question in their mind: what is the cost of action? Okay, so you guys, let's use this particular example for us working together. You guys looked at the cost of action, meaning what will it cost to interact with Frank for just over a month. And it's not that much money, so it was probably a fairly easy decision because you guys know, like, and trust me. But what we're going to be doing when we're interacting with people that we don't know is we need to get them to make a shift. We need to get them to make a shift from asking themselves, what is the cost of action? Okay, and the shift is going to be reframed in their minds to what is the cost of not acting. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking them from, well, Jason, well, Michael, well, Katya, well, anyone that's listening to the recording, well, Vladi, well, the cost of doing this program is X, right? So certainly you're going to have to spend a little bit of time, you're going to have to spend a little bit of money, but what is the cost to you of not acting? So if you don't go through with this particular product or service, if you don't act in the face of uncertainty, what is that going to cost you? What opportunities are you going to miss on? What relationships could potentially come into your life as a result of making this decision that will never materialize? Okay? And the way that I like to think about this is often this. People always ask me, what is the best time to start a business? The best time to start a business is always yesterday, or the best time to start a business is last year. But since we can't do those, the best time to start a business is today. The best time to start anything new is today, because when you look back, you can see the cost of not acting. When you look back a year from now and you say, what if I changed the way that I was able to sell a year ago? What is the cost of you not getting better at sales a year ago? What is the cost of you not starting a business a year before you really thought you were ready to do it? Okay, so what we're doing is we're getting them to flip a switch in their mind where they get out of their head, oh, it cost me $1,000 to work with Jason, but we want to get them in the mindset of, what would it cost me not to work with Jason? What problems would I have spiral out of control in my business if I didn't get Jason to build a software solution to fix them? Right? What would happen in my business if I didn't fix this problem? How much revenue would I miss out on? How many new employees would I be able to hire if I fix this inefficiency? So we're flipping them to the cost of not acting rather than the cost of what it means to act. So what do your prospects actually want? What are their goals? Okay? How does what they want fit into the product or service that you offer? This is ultimately what we're doing, you guys. Okay, we're reframing their beliefs around spending money. we're helping their decision-making process, and we're finding out if their goals align with our product or service, and only if their goals align with our product or service do we make an offer. Right? So this is, again, we're going to be looking at this in the next few weeks, but the baseline that I need everybody to understand in the first week here is that we're reframing beliefs around money, we're helping them through a decision-making process, and we're finding out if their goals align with our product or service, and if they do not, we don't make an offer. The reason that some people view salespeople as sleazy or manipulative is because they are sleazy and manipulative. Because some salespeople find out that their prospects' goals don't align with their product or service, and they employ these manipulative tactics to get them to buy anyway. And that's not what we're all about here. We are all about relentlessly finding out, is this somebody that I can help? And only if I can help them are we going to make them an offer. Okay, so what we've got to do in this whole scheme of things is we've got to get out of our own way. Okay? So again, this is about the mental game of sales. And the mental game of sales is huge. In fact, anything in life is ultimately 80% psychology and 20% skill, strategy, and tactics. Right? So in order for you guys to effectively employ the skill, strategy, and tactics that we're going to be talking about through the next 5 weeks, you've got to take care of that 80% of your psychology. So remember this, okay? Remember this if you ever are feeling like, I'm not sure if I should make somebody an offer, I'm not sure if I should get on this sales call. If your product or service has ever helped one person, right? So if it's helped one person, Michael, one person, Jason, one person, Vladi, then you have a moral obligation to spread the message of what you've got to offer. So remember this, if you've ever helped one person, then there are other people out there like that you can help. So what you're doing is you're making it no longer about you, you're making it about them, right? The limiting factor in your ability to get more of what you want in business is your ability to act in the face of your own uncertainty and fear, okay? It's not about you, it's about them. And this is how we're going to build in a little process that I've created so that you can constantly pattern into your brains what it actually means to make it about them and not about you. Okay, you've got to get out of your own way when you're trying to sell something, anything. Okay, so it's about alignment. It's about your own personal alignment. Most people, and I'm going to get into the process in a second here, but I just need to lay the groundwork. Most people in business, they don't clearly understand what their business is, right? So what am I actually in the business of? Well, I'm actually in the business not of helping people to sell more effectively, but I'm in the business of message spreading. I'm in the business of amplifying the impact of heart-driven entrepreneurs who want to go out there and do something that makes a difference in the fucking world. So first thing is, understand what your business is. If you're building software, if you're selling services, ask yourself at a core level, what am I truly in the business of? And the way that you frame that is in the results that you deliver to your clients. I'm not in the business of sales coaching. I'm in the business of amplifying impact, right? So ask yourself that question, because when we ask ourselves questions like that, we get juiced about what we do. Because it's not sexy to think, I'm a sales coach, or I'm a software developer, or I'm a software entrepreneur, but it can juice us. It can give us the energy that we need to keep going if we're framing in our business in a way that's exciting, okay? So most people can't clearly articulate how their business actually helps people. So when you can't clearly articulate how your business helps people, the day-to-day becomes very hard because you're disconnected with your why. Because a sales call just becomes another sales call rather than an opportunity for you to help somebody amplify the impact of their business. When I'm framing it as I'm going out there amplifying the impact of my business, it's easy for me to show up powerfully and authentically on those calls. But when I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is just another sales call, you can see how that mental pattern is going to leak over into the interaction that I'm having. So this is the process that I use, and I want you guys, this is going to be part of the little assignment that I've got for you guys after this. Okay, but this is a little something that I call the prepared purpose trio. Okay, the prepared purpose trio is something that you guys perform for yourselves. So you're going to go through this exercise later tonight by yourself, right? I'm going to encourage you to do it in no more than 10 minutes. Because when you're going longer than 10 minutes on something like this, you're starting to live in your head instead of in your gut, right? So this is going to be based on our gut. So this is going to be one of the biggest takeaways from the first week of laying the groundwork, and this is something that I'm going to challenge and invite you all to implement before any interaction that you go into. Okay, it's a process. Once you've actually figured these things out, it's a process that's only going to take you a minute or two. Before I get on any webinar, before I get on a call with someone, before I meet somebody in real life, I'm always going through my purpose trio, because what this is doing is it's mentally setting my frame. It is setting my own mental conditioning for what I'm going to bring into that interaction. And remember, anything in business is 80% psychology and 20% skill, strategy, and tactics. So what we're doing here is we are powerfully bringing that 80% into the rest of the interaction. So the way that's going to look, and I'm going to break this out for you guys, is number one, we're going to figure out a purpose in life. Stop yourselves if you're thinking, holy shit, Frank, how am I going to figure out my purpose in life in under 10 minutes? It's not important that for the purpose in life, it's not important that you guys get something exact or that you go through a 48-hour decision-making process. You'll see why in a minute here, but I just want to let you guys know, if you're thinking, holy shit, how am I going to do this? Don't worry, I've got you. So purpose in life, purpose in business, and then your purpose for this specific interaction that you're going on. Okay, here are some rules for purpose creation. So we're going to create this purpose trio. We're going to use this purpose trio as one of our bedrock tools, right? So again, we've got tools where we're going to help people through a decision-making process, right? We've got framework, we've got methodology, but before that, we've got our own mental conditioning that we've got to take care of for any of that stuff to matter. So from purpose creation, first rule, always frame things from the world of your customer. And I'm going to show you guys examples so you know exactly what you mean. But a very quick example is what I just talked about, where my goal on any call or any interaction is not to sell someone, it's to help them in some way. And I'll show you specifically how I create that. Second thing that we're talking about here is to consider your purpose and why before every interaction, right? So rule number one, always framing your purpose in the world of your customer. Second rule, always consider your purpose trio before every interaction. It's your mental conditioning, right? It's like meditation for sales, right? We do meditation every day, maybe, so we can be more focused, more authentic, more powerful. We're going to create a process like that specifically around our persuasion abilities. And then the third thing, it's mindset creation. You're going to get anchored by your purpose. When you're 4 months down the line after we've talked and you're out there crushing it, right, in your day-to-day, because you know exactly what to do, how to say it, when to say it, the reason that you're going to continue to be able to do that is you're going to be anchored by that purpose. Okay, so here's the first layer. Okay, the first layer of the prepared purpose trio is your purpose in life. Are you in alignment with your life? And careful of the alignment trap. Okay, so this is an example. This is very simple, right? My purpose in life is to expand human possibility by igniting curiosity, joy, and passion. Okay, it's very simple. What I'm doing in my brain, I'm considering, what impact do I want to have on humanity, on other people, and on the planet? And I'm framing my purpose overall in that frame. And again, remember, you guys, this is a quick exercise, so this is not something that you're meant to spend 48 hours considering. This is something where you're meant to go through it very quickly and say, what kind of an impact do I want to have on people and on the world? And then you frame it in that capacity. And what you'll see here is that ultimately this layer of purpose, it's really just a check mark that you're going to have to check off. Okay, so what you're going to be doing here as you're moving down the 3 layers of purpose is you're going to be verifying with whether or not this lines up with the purpose in your business and the purpose within your interaction. Right, so we've got purpose in life, business, interaction. What we're doing is we're checking before every call, make sure the 3 of those are in line. Because if the 3 of those are in line, we're ready to do this thing. Okay, the second layer of purpose is now where I can get a bit more detailed for you guys. So the purpose for your business is set in the world of your customer. So again, we're not creating goals about I want to create X amount of revenue or I want to have 20 sales, right? That's not the purpose of your business in this context. The purpose of your business is in this context is set in the world of your customer. Meaning, remember the whole you versus them thing? It's not about you, it's about them. So in this purpose of our business, we're making it about them, not about us, so that we can remind ourselves before interactions what we're actually doing. Okay, so here's an example. The purpose, my purpose, is to empower purpose-driven entrepreneurs and professionals to scale their businesses exponentially faster while increasing the freedom and joy they feel in communicating their message. So first thing to notice there, my purpose is entirely about my effect or my ability to create change or to create growth in other people. So there is a place absolutely in life for revenue goals, for sales goals, for business goals. This isn't the place. This is about our mental conditioning. So my purpose is set in the world of my customers. How do I want to help them? What growth do I want them to have? What do I want to change in their business or life that are going to make things better for them? Okay, and again, this is going to be part of the exercise that we do after that. But what we're doing, you can see here in B, we're checking if this aligns with my purpose. So if I go back a slide, right, my purpose in life is to expand human possibility by igniting curiosity, passion, and joy. So now what I want to do is I want to check, does my business purpose align with my overall mission? And it certainly does, right? So now I'm in line in 2 different layers. Now I just want to see, am I in line for the last layer? This last layer, your purpose for this specific interaction, is one of the most important layers that you've got, okay? Because ultimately, your business and life purposes are outstanding, but this is the immediate impact that we can have. This is our immediate ability to focus on them rather than us. So it's always set in the world of the other party. And this is an example that I might put out there as a purpose for any sales call that I'm getting on. So my purpose is to deeply understand my customers' problems by asking impactful questions and to make recommendations based on the full understanding of the scope and breadth of their issue or problem. Okay, so remember, most people's purpose when they're thinking about going into a sales call, they're thinking, how do I get them to say yes? How do I not look stupid? How do I get them to think that I'm smart? But 80% of psychology, 80% of this is psychology, 20% is what you actually show up and say and do. So taking care of that 80%, I am framing myself to go in there in a powerfully authentic way. My purpose isn't to get a sale. My purpose isn't to convince them of shit. My purpose is to understand problems by asking questions and then making smart recommendations based on the full understanding. And then I do the last check, right? I say, does this line up with my purpose in business? And you can see, I want to empower people. Yep. Is it in line with my purpose in life? Expand human possibility by igniting curiosity, joy, and passion. So I'm in line. So the way that I do this, the way that I implement this, is I literally have these things written out. So again, because I'm firing neurological connections when I actually write things down, I'm writing these 3 things down before any sales interaction, and I'm very briefly just looking at them the second before I make that call. So I know the reason that I'm going into that interaction is because I want to help them do something. I'm going to help them overcome their decision-making inabilities. I'm going to help them overcome their inability to interact with a salesperson because of their conditioning. I'm going to help them overcome their inability to effectively grow their business because they can't see the things that are causing them not to be able to get what they want. Okay, so this is just like a little exercise that I do. You don't have to do it right now, but it's something to consider. Okay, consider something that you've purchased in the last year that was big, right? You spent a lot of money on it. Write down the cost, the monetary cost. What did it cost you in terms of time? And then also resource cost. What did it cost you in terms of money, or excuse me, in time and money. Now write down how that particular thing impacted your life, and then consider what would it be like if the inventor of that product or service never made that product available because of their own belief systems around what it meant to sell or create something new, right? And ask yourself, would that be good or would that be a bad thing? It would probably be a bad thing, especially if you liked that thing. Okay. Again, we're moving along here, so we might be going a little bit over, but I want to get you guys all of this baseline information because we're going to stack on top of this quickly in the following weeks with the real things that you're going to do and say on every sales interaction. Okay, this is the baseline. So just to recap, everybody's got an action threshold. Okay, the action threshold are the patterns, thoughts, and beliefs that they need to hold in a given moment to take action. In a given moment is key. So we must lower their subconscious limiting buying beliefs around salespeople being greedy, strangers are dangerous, knowing if someone well enough to do business with them, spending money is bad. We've got to lower their subconscious limiting buying beliefs so that in a given moment, they hold the information and the beliefs that will empower them to take action. Okay, what is the criteria necessary for action, right? What does that action threshold actually mean for people? What are we trying to get them through? Number one, we got to get them to see and understand the problem. That's first and foremost. Number two, the customer needs to understand the implications of not taking action to fix the problem. So that's when we were talking about the concept of not acting, right? So they don't just have to see that there's a problem and say, yeah, Frank, yeah, Jason, yeah, Vladi, yeah, Annie, there's a problem. What they need to do is understand the implications of not taking action to fix that problem. What's it going to cost them in terms of time, money, resources, emotional leakage? What's it going to cost them if they don't fix that thing? They've got to have a measure of urgency and want to solve the problem now. Okay, so they see the problem, they understand the implications of not taking action to fix it. There's urgency around that, right? Meaning this is a problem that needs to be solved now, not tomorrow or next month. And then they have to understand the payoff of solving that problem, right? So what would it mean to you, Mr. Business Owner, if you solved this problem today? How much more revenue? How much more freedom? How much more impact would you have? These are some of the common emotional triggers that we're going to be building the next weeks around. And I stick with the P's because it's easy to remember. So some of the common emotional triggers for people, right? Because remember, decision making starts emotionally and then goes logically. So some of the emotional triggers that we're going to be setting off through this process are, is it pleasurable, right? And then obviously the direct opposite of all of these. Is this pleasurable or is this painful? Do you have pride on this or are you embarrassed about this? Is this profitable for you, right? Is it making you money or are you losing money? Does this protect you in some way or does it leave you vulnerable? And what's the price, right? Money, a huge emotional trigger that we're going to use in anchoring. Okay, some of the projects with logic selling, tell the customer the price too early. By the way, logic selling, what I'm showing you guys here is what not to do, okay? By telling a customer the price too early, you're fucking up with their decision-making process because people don't understand how they make decisions. So many people may come to you and say, look, I'm excited to talk, but just tell me the price. The reason that we don't tell them the price immediately up front is not because we want to withhold that from them, but because knowing the price too early is going to fuck with our prospect's ability to make a decision that is best for them. Because once they hear the price, they immediately go in their mind of what is the cost of acting, and they're not thinking at all about what the cost of not acting is, right? So these are the problems if you try and logically sell someone. You can't tell the customer the price too early. You cannot talk about features too much. Again, features are logical things that you probably care about more than them, and your customers probably think they care about, but they don't. What they care about is a resolution to their problem, and the features are just something that gets in the way of them understanding what their problem is and what the possible resolution looks like. Okay. Another problem with logic selling is that you're living in me-centered universe. Here's another thing that I come up against a lot, and that is people ask me, how do you deal with this objection? How do you deal with objection Y or objection X? Objection handling implies logic, right? Objection handling means that you think of selling like sword fighting, right? Where if somebody comes at you with a sword, you've got to defend yourself, and then you've got to counterattack, and then you've got to defend yourself, and you've got to counterattack. We can't logically sell people. Here's what happens when you try and combat any objection. When you try and combat or overcome any objection, what's actually happening is that you're creating a wall between your prospect and you. And it's pretty hard to get back over that wall. So we never want to build that type of a wall between our prospect and ourselves, right? We are going to align with our prospects to avoid creating a barrier between us and them. This is going to be something that we're really going to focus on in later sessions, but it was important for me to get it out there for you guys in the first week. Okay, remember, this is going to be a part of the post-call form, but I just wanted to drop this on you guys. Okay, well, what I want you guys to do, and people who are listening to the recording, immediately after you listen to the recording, I want you to use the form that I'm going to give you and create your 3 layers of purpose. Okay, remember, business purpose, life purpose, business purpose, purpose for this interaction, always set in the world of the other party. And don't worry, I've got cheat sheets for you guys on that, but because I want you guys to integrate this information, I want you guys to give it a shot without me sending you the information again, right? Because that's how we can integrate. We force our brains to go and grab that knowledge that we just consumed. Second, immediately start going through your purposes before every interaction, right? So I mentioned to you guys that there are going to be actionable takeaways after every single week. The actionable takeaway after every single week is that 80% of your psychology, meaning you must, or of course, it's your decision, I invite and challenge you to start using your prepared purpose trio before every sales interaction that you go on in the next week. And I want you guys to see how that immediately changes the way that you show up to somebody, right? Even before we've laid out all of the groundwork about what the strategy looks like, what to say and when to say it, I want you guys to see, and this is an important part of the process that we do this for a week without doing any of the other detailed strategy and tactics. I want you guys to see the change that doing your prepared purpose trio makes going into a call, because you're going to flip the focus onto them and off of you, and that is going to make a change even without the strategy and tactics that we're going to be learning in the following weeks. Okay, so this is key. The next part of this is challenge yourself to do this and articulate this before every interaction. This is not about you guys learning cool new information. It's about you guys getting new information and then immediately going and challenging yourself to use it. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to do. And then the last little note here, this isn't something that you say out loud to your customer. It's something that you use to prime your own brain. Okay, ultimately, I think this is the last slide. Yeah. Okay. So we're almost done, guys. A few more minutes. So vision. Everything in sales is about vision. It's going to start with your vision. It's going to end with their vision. Okay. Without the creation of their vision, there can be no action on their part. What do I mean by vision? Aside from the problems that they've got, right? Aside from what you're trying to help them solve, they need to see clearly a vision of what success looks like to them. Okay? They need to see what success looks like to them if they make the change that you're going to help them make. They need to see that in an ideal world, what does their experience look like? Right? So how much money will they be making? How efficient will they be? What will it feel like? What will other people say to them? You want to get them to live in that vision. It's a concept called fantasy state induction, right? This is a deep psychological concept that guys like Tony Robbins use to sell tens of thousands of dollars worth of sales packages to people that can't even afford that shit. And the way that they do it is by fantasy state induction. The way that you create a fantasy state induction in someone is by you get them to see a vision of what it looks like for them to succeed. But you don't just get them to see what it looks like. You get them to feel what it looks like. You get them to imagine what people would say to them when they're achieving this. You get them to imagine what it's going to feel like for them, what people are going to say to them, what they're going to say to people. Okay, so this is really the foundation of what we're going to be building on in the next few weeks, which is how do you create vision in the minds of your prospects so they can get beyond the day-to-day little obstacles that they have, and they can start living in a world in their brain that you've created for them, but they can start living in this world about what it means to get what they want. Okay, this is one other thing that I want to give you guys as a takeaway, right? So immediately actionable stuff. Immediately actionable stuff is number one, prepared purpose trio. Use it before every interaction. Okay? The second thing that I want you guys to be able to take away from today and build on is that the most valuable non-renewable resource on the planet is time. It's not money, it's not gold, it's not plutonium, it's time. Okay, so in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what he actually talks about there is that rich is money, but wealth is time. And what the truly wealthy people in the world desire is not money, but is time. Okay? Because time is freedom. So we must spend our valuable time wisely. It's the best, most valuable commodity that you possess. Everybody possesses the same amount of it in a given moment. So I want to make sure that you're spending your valuable time wisely. Okay? The next week, what we're going to focus on is how to make every single interaction the best possible use of your time by making one simple change to your processes, and that is the addition of a valid agenda. So we don't have time to get into that tonight, but I want you guys to know what we're going to be kicking off next week is something that my client Don used to go from $1,000 a month to $10,000 a month in his marketing business in 6 weeks. This idea of an agenda is something that allowed my buddy William, who I coached just about a year ago, to take that information on the agenda alone, implement it, and then net $5,000 from selling a financial plan to someone. All right, so that's where we're going to be going next week. The last thing that I want to leave you guys with is no need. If you speak with any of the top salespeople in the world, anyone who understands persuasion, they do not need a sale. Okay? You do not need a sale. What you need is food, air, water, and shelter. And when you tell yourself that you need a sale, what you're telling your subconscious brain, because your subconscious brain is millions of years old, and when it thinks need, it means food, water, air, and shelter. Meaning if you don't get one of those things, you're going to die. So when you're telling your brain, when you're sending patterns through your brain of I need this sale, what you're telling your brain is that I'm going to die if I don't get this sale. Okay? That is not the energy that we can bring to a sales call, because you probably know this and you might have experienced this. When somebody feels needy, it does not feel good to interact with them. Okay, so the last thing that I want to leave you guys with this week is have absolutely no need. You get to want things. You get to want a sale. You get to want to help people. But when you tell your brain that you need something, you're subconsciously sending signals to it that if you don't get it, you're going to die. And that's no way to go out there and become a pro at this. This is just a little bonus that I use if you guys want to. You might want to screenshot this. I use this for the Prepared Purpose Trio. There's an app called Omvana on the iTunes store. It's free. So you can download this free app, and there's a little mixer function. So once you've actually gotten your Prepared Purpose Trio written out, you can actually go to this, use the mixer, okay, and then you can record yourself saying your Prepared Purpose Trio, and then you can lay that over some music. So I use that as a little hack. So before I get on any call for 2 minutes, I just put my headphones in, go to the app where I've got my recording, and I hear myself say my prepared purpose trio over and over again. Boom. And I kept you guys late. I'm going to pull up the... Where the fuck is the screen? Can you guys jump off mute? Are you still hearing me?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, sorry guys, I ran a little bit late, but I'm going to send you that form. Actually, you've got the form in the chat box. Any questions that you guys want me to handle right now? I know I just shot a fire hose at you, but this is all concepts that we needed to understand to build on. So what questions you guys have now? And that's okay if you don't have any questions. Confirm for me for you guys have the link to the form?
Yes.
Cool. So what I would recommend is, like I said, go fill out the form right now. It's just got a few simple questions. I want you guys to use that to be able to integrate all of this stuff that we just talked about. I know we talked about a lot, so it's going to be massively valuable to you guys to just go through those few questions in the next 10 minutes so you can grab and integrate that as much as possible. Is that cool?
Sounds good.
Cool, guys. Well, there's going to be a recording of this, so I'll drop you guys the recording tomorrow once it gets all loaded. That way you've got it if you want to watch it again. But if there's no questions...
Actually, I have one question.
Totally, man. What's up?
Will we have access to the PowerPoint or just the video?
Oh, yeah. Do you guys want the PowerPoint?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send it to you right now. Michael, you have a weird one, don't you?
It's just Mike. That hickey. Excuse me.
There we go. All right, perfect. And for those people listening on the recording, if you want the PowerPoint, I'm going to send it to you. So you've got the PowerPoint. You'll have the recording. Go through that form after you've watched it. For the people on the recording, I'm going to send you the form in an email so you can fill it out that way. But if there's nothing else, guys, let's it's probably pretty late. It's 8:11 where I'm at right now, so let's wind down the night. Thank you guys for coming. For the people on the recording, see you guys soon. But that's all. Same time next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
All right,
Frank.
good night, gents.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.